If I could only figure out how to get my team motivated.
We are never going to get this project done on time.
Oh my God, my payroll numbers are insane. Why are we having all this overtime?
Do you have these or similar employee problems? Do you feel like some of your employees are just there for a paycheck? Tired of recruiting, interviewing, onboarding, and training just to find out you must do it all over again? Then it's time for you to find out how to have outrageously awesome employees. Sit back, buckle up, and get ready because we're about to drop a knowledge bomb on you. Please welcome to the mic the host of the show, the man who puts the human in human resources, the 007 of team building, the emperor of employee engagement, Randy Starr.
Hey guys, welcome back. It's another episode of How to Have Outrageously Awesome Employees. Super special guest today, Cheryl Edmond. Cheryl, you're in Alaska.
That's correct.
That is so awesome, Alaska. So, and I'm in Florida, so we're at the furthest points apart, possibly,
Yes,
I believe. Cheryl's been in human resources for a while. I'm going to let her tell you about her story. She's currently with Hope Community Resources, and
That's
she
correct.
also runs her own HR business. So, Cheryl, tell
That's
everybody a little bit about yourself, what you've done in the past, those types of things, so we'll get to know you a little bit before we jump into some questions.
All right. I have over 20 years in human resources. I started out in public service for a city in North Orange County, and then moved and transitioned into human resources. Went to college to do that, and so I've had a variety of experiences: HR generalist, HR manager, HR director. I did some specialty work in organizational leadership and training, and succession planning. And one of the things I love to do is coach managers how to be really efficient with their teams and really dive into what it means to be fully engaged employees.
Oh, very good.
So, yeah.
So over 20 years.
Yes.
So you've seen the evolution of human resources from personnel to business partnerships now.
Absolutely. From before HRIS systems were even thought about, everything was on a spreadsheet.
I know, right? Or little scripts of paper. Isn't it crazy?
Absolutely.
Business has changed so much over the years. And say, take the last 20 years, business has changed so much.
Yes.
Mainly due to technology.
Yes.
But human resources has probably changed way more than any other part of business.
I would agree with that.
And some of it has to do with technology, but a lot of it doesn't. A lot of it was just you guys were given more and more and more responsibility.
Yeah.
Because they started, business owners and operations folks started to realize the importance, I think. So,
Correct.
yeah, very good stuff. Okay, so working in any labor-intensive industry, we come up with, I guess we'll call them challenges, employee-related challenges. What do you believe is the biggest employee challenge? And as a follow-up, what do you do to overcome that challenge?
The biggest employee challenge, I think probably what I see on a regular and consistent basis is a communication breakdown with their supervisor or their manager.
Oh, cool.
And I don't see full engagement of the manager or supervisor or whoever the person is that's in charge of helping that particular employee be successful. If the manager, director, supervisor were more fully engaged, had more tools, I typically see kind of an empty toolbox, they would be more effective managers. And I think that's where the engagement piece locks in. Yes, I think the employee doesn't get hired and come in and go, how can I best mess up somebody's day? They come in eager, ready to go, want to do a good job. And then, as they hit barriers, they get discouraged.
Yeah, that's so true. I have said and will continue to say there is no such thing as a bad employee.
Right.
I don't think there is. I really don't.
I don't either.
I've worked with some people in the past that had absolutely zero business doing what they were hired to do.
Yeah.
But in a way, it's partly their fault. It is.
It's a two-way street.
Yeah, it's a two-way street. You can't blame everything on the person who selected them for that position, but
right.
They're not bad employees. Just like you hear people say bad kids. I don't think there's any such thing as a bad kid either.
Right.
It's and they kind of fall into the same bucket. They're missing something. There's something that they didn't get. There's something that they need, and what you just said there was perfect. They come to work. I don't remember anybody. I worked for Marriott for many years, worked for franchisees of Marriott for many years in operations. And I don't remember ever hiring anyone who came to work and on their first day, they were like, oh, this is just so boring. I don't want to be here. Nobody's like that.
Right.
They're not.
No.
They are excited because they've got a new job. It's a new experience. And I think it's the responsibility of whoever they're working with, the team that they're involved with, to keep that excitement and to push it forward and give them what they need to continue to grow. And if you're dealing with somebody, like you said, empty toolbox, it becomes difficult.
The other thing that I think kind of even a step farther is I think the manager, supervisor, director is responsible to figure out what motivates their people, just like your children. I mean, it takes some doing to get to know somebody, to understand what motivates them.
Right.
And I think that's a big part of it also.
It's enormous. I deal on a daily basis with organizations that want to know how to have, we call awesome employees. They call them engaged or A-team players, whatever you call them.
Right.
The good employees.
Yeah.
I deal with them on a daily basis, and there's some stuff out there that's miscommunicated over the years, and they get a lot of organizations get into the psychological profiling and the science behind it all, and it gets a little confusing, and people don't understand what they're talking about.
Right.
So nothing gets done. But I was always the guy who didn't spend a lot of time in my office. I was a wanderer. I wandered around the hotel and talked to staff and guests, vendors, everybody. And that's lost. People don't do that anymore. They've got so much responsibility from their corporate whoever to create reports and do whatever they need to do. They have very little time to go out and shake hands and kiss babies, whatever you want to call it, but to get to know. And if you don't know and you generalize, you're never going to be that high level manager,
exactly,
with that high level executive. Or if it's within the corporation will never be that business that people look at as, man, we want to work there.
Years ago, I have taken several Franklin Covey courses, and I've certified in a couple of the courses. But I remember one leadership class right off the bat, the instructor said, "Who's the best boss you ever had, and why?" So we really, he just smacked us with that question. And and that book, Raving Fans.
Oh yes, I've read that several times.
Yeah, and and Ken Blanchard and everybody, and that's also something that I look for and I like to teach. If you don't have raving fans that'll just jump the moon for you, you're really not exceeding. You're not really meeting the bar.
Right.
And they don't really like to hear that necessarily, but I said, we've got tools to help you, take it to the next level. And those are, managers who do that don't have any trouble with engagement.
Right.
And they can remove the barriers along the way.
I get a lot of the I'm too busy to get out of my office.
Yep.
And my typical comeback is well, when I was in hotels, Mr. Marriott, who I think we can all agree is extremely busy, visited every single one of his hotels at least one time every year.
Yeah.
He didn't just pull up, walk in, go to the general manager's office, have a 15-minute meeting and leave. He was there all day long. He met every employee, shook every employee's hand, and asked everybody, how's it going? How are we treating you? Do you like your job? I mean, the dude was busy, but he had time to do that. So when an operations manager says, I just can't do it, they can, and they don't for whatever reason. And they're individuals, so it's their own reason why they don't. It's because they don't want to take the time to do it, or they don't know what to do, or they're uncomfortable doing it, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But they would be surprised if they would take that little bit of time, and they have to start with baby steps, spend 5 or 10 minutes every day. And that's what I teach everybody is take 5 minutes, go spend it with somebody that you don't know that works for you on your team. Spend 5 minutes with them, get to know them, and do that every day. Their amount of work will decrease because engaged employees want to do more work. I mean, it's not going to happen overnight, but in 6 months, you would be amazed. Walking around the hotel will be all you'll be able to do.
Yeah, I remember, I think it was a Franklin Covey tip. Anyway, years ago, they said, with your own team, have a 10-minute stand-up meeting first thing in the morning, just 10 minutes. And it's a little rally. Everybody gets together. We talk about what we're going to do for the day. I had a team of 5 at the time. It worked miracles.
Yep.
They loved it.
Stand-ups. We call them stand-ups, huddles.
Yeah.
Recognize. It's a great time to recognize people for something they've done like the previous day. Yeah, it's tremendous. Okay, so HR professionals are busy. I think we kind of touched on that because of all the extra stuff you've been given over the years.
Yeah, no kidding.
All the different responsibilities from just the day-to-day, HR stuff to legal stuff and everything that pops up. How do you find time to keep employee engagement programs going?
All right, that's a good question, and one that I really love to talk about. I plan a 30-minute meeting with each one of my managers that I support every single week. Some of them I end up bi-weekly, but most of them every week. And if it needs to be 15 minutes, it's 15 minutes. But we go over the strategy that is put in place. For instance, the controller at my last hotel for Remington, up here in Alaska, the Sheraton, I worked with the controller. She had 7 people on her staff. She was a marginal manager. She never had a team that large, but she's young in her career, but she's very sharp. And so in our 30-minute meetings, we started talking about she wanted to get rid of her people that weren't performing. And I get that. So we started, and I said, here's what I suggest you do. You meet with every one of your employees every single week, and you meet with them individually, and you can call it anything you want, from a soup session to, weekly work meeting, whatever you want to call it, but you meet with them individually every single week, 30 minutes, maybe 15 minutes, and you write the agenda ahead of time, you send it to them. Let's just talk about that. So you keep your notes, and then when it's time for their 6-month evaluation, you've got 6 months worth, you've got all your notes, 12 months. And so the poor performers, to start with, the poor performers didn't like that meeting at all.
Right.
And the really good performers loved it and wanted to learn more.
Funny how that works.
Yeah, so she went from a team of 7 to a team of 4 performing the exact amount of work.
Wow.
And she had one that she realized wasn't even a high school, didn't even have a high school diploma, so she probably should have never been hired. But anyway, she liked her, so she wanted to invest in her. The young lady had she was divorced with 3 kids and lived with her dad, and just barely making ends meet. This young lady went back to school, got her GED, and she's currently in college.
Wow.
She's in her 2nd year.
Wow.
And and for a person to do that kind of turnaround, someone invested in her.
Yes.
And her straight shooting boss, this controller, the whole team loves her. A year ago, 2 years ago, they didn't love her. But
isn't that crazy?
Her, yeah, that connection and that commitment that she made, and it just solved all kinds of problems. She still has the team of 4. At the last audit that they had, I'm trying to answer one quick text message here. At her last audit, it was the best audit in 9 years that the corporate auditors had ever experienced at that hotel.
Wow.
Yeah, and
that just comes from spending some time with your team.
Correct.
That's it. So you make sure that programs stay on track because you schedule them.
That's right.
Yeah.
So sometimes they get missed. Okay, they
Yeah.
get pushed back a couple of days if it's urgent. If something urgent had to be talked about, they
Right.
get pushed back a little bit. If there wasn't something specifically urgent, then we just moved on to the next week.
Gotcha.
And they knew they could bring issues to that meeting, and they left with resources, or I gave them my promise that I would get the resources for them.
Right.
And and give me 24, 48 hours, and I'll find some other resources for you. I gave them books to read, all my little raving fans, and Who Moved My Cheese, and
Yeah, that's a good one too.
everybody.
Yeah.
Monday morning, I have a whole plethora of books, but they knew I was invested in them,
Right.
in their success. I'm not in running their department. I'm not,
Right.
Telling people what to do. But, how are those 30 housekeepers?
Right.
Who is giving you a problem? Who's late for work? Who's not late for work? Who's next on the promotion list? One thing I suggested with our housekeepers is they didn't have an office. It was really sloppy back there in housekeeping, and it was just dirty and a mess. And anyway, they did get it all. The company came through and painted it and got everything cleaned up. Well, after they did, I suggested that we give the supervisors or the housekeepers this beautiful glass office right next to the director's office. And I just suggested it to the director. So, hey, wouldn't this be nice?
Yeah.
They could have their private area. They've got reports and stuff people don't need to see, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
You'd have think he'd have given them $1 million. They were flying.
Yeah.
But, just stuff that HR can see that might leverage some more, engagement.
Right.
And without spending any money.
Yeah. Well, most of the engagement stuff, the good stuff, is free because it's like what you've just been discussing. It's connection. It's relationship building. It costs you some time.
Right.
That's it. You don't have to go out and spend, several $1,000s on a new software program to implement. You just don't have to do it. So, I mean, that was a program that you do, is, in my opinion, that the time. Are there any other programs that you prefer that you use, and other than the one that you just mentioned? And if so, do any of these programs, can you see positive influence on your engagement scores when you do surveys?
Yes. We went, we did do that program. I always do a walk around. So that was, like you're describing, that was very important to, high five and that sort of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I made sure that they were doing their performance evaluations. It's low hanging fruit.
Yep.
I started sending them out a monthly reminder. The company was coming, the auditor told us after our big audit, and I still do this at my new position, but the auditor told us, what's coming down the next year is, and this was last December, or the December before, he said, the annual performance reviews are now going to be on the audit. It's going to be part of the black and white, yes or no, you passed or failed,
Right.
in both accounting and HR. So, throw the flag out there for me because I'm going to pick it up. So I'm like, no problem. And, they hadn't been done in 2 or 3 years. And, I had redone all the personnel files. So I knew where everybody stood.
Right.
So I started and I announced it to them all and said, listen, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to give you a month's notice and I'm going to send you the names and the anniversary date. And you have in April, you're going to get it the last week of March and it's due April 30th.
Right.
No questions asked.
Right.
That's the deadline.
Yeah.
So get me your drafts in the first week or so. I'm happy to wordsmith anybody who sends me anything.
Right.
And, making sure you're not giving away the farm and you're not calling people stupid or whatever, and,
Yes, I do.
or you're an idiot,
Yeah.
and then send it back to them and, so they can deliver it in a timely manner.
Right.
So, and I said, here's the, the good news. You now have no choice because they're going to be on the audit. We're going to be scored on this.
Right.
So it's that important to the organization. And quite frankly, your people want to hear from you.
Of course.
They want a pat on the back. They want to know how they're doing. They want to correct what might not be accurate.
Right.
They want to do a good job.
They do. They do want to do a good job. And one of my goals was always to make sure that no one ever asked me, how am I doing?
Yes.
I didn't want to hear that question.
No.
I would rather hear them say, okay, I know. versus, can you give me some feedback on how I'm doing? Because I've been here for 6 months and I haven't heard a word.
Yeah.
That's just not right. Especially with high performers. High performers, yes. They're overachievers. They need to know where they stand. And people who are marginal, that you see something in that can do better, they need to know what they need to be doing to get to that point. It's not fair. I never.
It's just not fair.
When anybody would be terminated for performance, I couldn't stand it. I mean, it had to happen in some instances, but it was just like, oh
very
my
few.
God, you've got to be kidding me. How many times have you told this person how bad they're doing? Well, I told them last week because we knew we were going to fire them. Really?
Yeah.
Really? That's when you told them. Oh, that's great. So yeah. Hey, do you know what the unemployment rate is in Alaska right now?
It's very, very low. Very low. I think it's 4 point something.
4 point something. So I checked, and I think we were under 4 nationally, and then it rose to 4. So it's still ridiculously low. Has it affected your retention?
Yes.
And what are you doing to reduce turnover?
I tell you, it's tough. What the hotel's doing, and they've done it for the past several years, is they're bringing in international students from Intrax who want to work the summer, and they love Alaska.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to come to Alaska. And quite frankly, we swell up to, this year will be the largest year of tourists in the history of Alaska.
Wow.
And they've been, the Chamber of Commerce and there's a whole visitors company, if you will, that markets the state. And this will be the largest year. They've even added 2 new cruises. So the population swells up. Every hotel is full. You can't get a hotel room up here without booking a year in advance anywhere.
Wow.
And I've heard people say, well, how about Motel 6? Well, we don't have Motel 6 up here.
Yeah.
That doesn't exist.
Right.
So, and I'm on a listserv for RVers that come to Alaska. So I like to give them all this information. No, don't go there. The bears are out, and all this jazz. But for employment, they literally are all the employers are doing it. Home Depot, Lowe's, all the hotels, again, because there's just not enough people.
Really?
But so that's one of the major ways in my industry now. Gosh, I'm out on the streets, even though I'm a business partner. Part of what I have to do, large picture, is recruiting. So I'm out building relationships. I'm out in the universities building relationships with the social service department, with the education department, with the nursing department, because we have nurses.
Right.
And I'm literally meeting with those directors and those faculty, along with my staff, with my directors that I work with, bringing them along to significantly build those relationships. Years ago, I had a business chair ask me at Chapman University. He said, Cheryl, we're in really good times right now, but what are you going to do when we're in a recession and we need to place these law students, when we need to place these business majors, MBAs? And I said, and so I got forced into that answer. And I said, you know what I'm going to do? It's all about building relationships. So I'm going to be out building those relationships with those employers so that my team has resumes in their drawer.
Right.
So that's how I do it.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm teaching. So like right now, I'm working with our Discovery Center, which has day camps all summer. So they're going to swell up and they're going to hire about 15 people. So I'm out looking for 18-year-olds and, anybody who wants to work summer camps.
Right.
So literally I'm going to be on a high school campus on Friday. And my goal right now is to get us into the entire district, not just one high school.
Wow.
Again, building those relationships with the district.
That's what it's all about.
Yes, it really
It's all about relationships. It really is. Hey, Cheryl, this has been really good. This is awesome.
Thank you.
Some super tips and some really good insight into keeping folks engaged. So thank you so much for your time. I know you're busy and we're on a huge time difference here. So it's like 4:00 here, but you're just kind of getting your day going. It's lunch there, isn't it?
It's lunchtime.
Yeah, it's lunchtime. We're getting ready to go home. So you're actually talking to me in the future.
Oh, yes, I am.
All right. So thanks again.
You're welcome.
Hope you have an awesome day. And for those of you who have not subscribed to the channel yet, please hit the button below and subscribe, and we'll let you know when we have another episode. Thanks and bye for now.
Randy.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for hanging out with us. Please feel free to contact Randy with any questions about team building or employee engagement issues. Subscribe to this channel so you'll be notified when new episodes are published.